Okay, so we have our URLs. Now the next step is to figure out how we're going to actually load them into our application, okay? Now before we do this, I have already, I have posted both the actual command to download these URLs yourself if you want to play around with this command. I think it's pretty cool. The other thing I have uploaded into the notes is this file here, okay, so the full file. And I have also uploaded a miniature version of this file where I have only gotten the first 1000 URLs, okay? So I will be working with the small file, with the one that only has 1000 URLs, because I don't want to be loading up 1.5 million URLs into my application, because for now, the whole purpose is to see how to load up URLs and see and get parsing and all that. And so I don't want to work with a huge data set, because it will slow everything up. And for me, the purpose is to show you how to do this and not spend too much time actually loading information into the system, okay? Okay, so I'm back in my project here in PyCharm, and we will need to first figure out how we're going to structure our parser inside of our entire application. Because as we said before, we're going to be using a certain feature that App Engine provides us with, which basically allows us to dedicate separate resources for our parser so that like that, it doesn't consume resources which our website uses. So in this way, we know that our users will get a good experience because the resources will be separate. So the resources of the website will be separate from the resources of our parser, okay? So if we suddenly launch our parser, then our website won't get slower, okay? So to do this, we are going to use something called modules, okay? Not models, but modules. And modules in App Engine, what they are is basically a way which you can segregate your application into different bits of functionality, and this functionality runs on its separate resources, okay? So this is what we're going to be doing. So first in our project, so we're going to right click on the default folder and hit new Python package and call it modules. Okay. And inside of modules, let's create a new Python package called parser. Okay. So we have we're going to build a parser module, and actually let's go ahead and inside of parser, create a new Python package called src, which stands for source. So this will be where all the source code of our parser goes in, and each module needs a separate YAML file, okay? So app.yaml is our generic YAML configuration file, which serves for our default module, okay? Whenever you're creating a App Engine application, you already have a default module and you're always building on top of that module, okay? In fact, if we go ahead to our console, and here I've run the application, and we see that info starting module default running at localhost 8080. So in fact, all of this time we were launching our application on the default module. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting up a new module when we define the YAML file for that module. What you should do is to create inside of parser a new file and call this parser.yaml. So this will be our parser module, and in here you can simply paste the YAML or the content or the code that I have put up in the lecture notes. Now, the reason why I ask you to copy this is because I think it doesn't add too much value to actually memorize how we do this stuff, because, you can always just go back and read all of these lines and you'll figure out what they do. I'm going to go over some things that are different, obviously, like these 3 lines here, which are different. We haven't seen them, well, actually in this one too. But once you know what they do, it doesn't make too much sense to for me at least, to type this out. I'll just copy it from project to project, okay? Okay, so the first thing we need to do before we forget is we need to change this application value here on the application line. So you need to always set it to your project ID. So in my case, this is JumpSearch2, okay? And then here's the first line, which is kind of different, but I guess you can already figure out what it does. Basically, it defines the name of our module. So this module will be called parser. The version, again, the same as the default module. For now, it's going to be version 1. Runtime and API version, thread safe. Again, we're not going to be touching these. And now the instance class. Okay, so what is this? Basically, what this defines is what type of machines we want our module to run on. Okay, so App Engine allows you or gives you the option of running your application and your modules on various types of machines. So if I go to their website here, so this is cloud.google.com/appengine/docs/python/modules, we have here instance classes. And instance classes basically tells us what kind of instances we can run on. So remember, we put F1, and basically F1 or F2 or F4 or any of these reflect what kind of machine we're going to be running on. So F1 is a machine with 128 megabytes of memory, a CPU limit of 600 megahertz, so this is very little, but we won't be needing more, and then also the cost per instance hour. Okay, so this is the cheapest instance. This is why I chose F1. And frankly, I don't think you need to bump it up to any of the ones that are higher than F1, okay, or B1. Okay, so I recommend you leave it at F1. And then we have this automatic scaling, which basically tells App Engine how we want to scale this module up. So the minimum number of idle instances is going to be 1. We don't want to have more than 1 for now, or at least for our use case for that matter, because whenever we don't have our parser actually going out to food.com, in this case, and parsing, we don't want there to be, idle instances sitting around and doing nothing, because, that doesn't make too much sense. So we're going to keep it at 1. And then this is the max pending latency, tells App Engine that whenever workload increases, well, we don't want the users to wait a lot of time for new instances to be spun up and serve the requests. So we're going to leave this at 1 second. So this is the maximum latency that App Engine will allow work to wait for, while it kind of figures out that the previous instance is still working. So it gives it 1 second to see if it finishes, and if it doesn't finish, then we will actually start up new instances, to serve new requests, and so that we don't get a bottleneck of traffic. Okay, so this is what this parameter does. We're going to keep it at 1 second. And then handlers, you've already seen this, but basically any URL that starts off with _parser will be mapped to this here. Okay, good. And then we have a login line here, which basically says that, the question here might be, okay, so will anyone be able to actually access these URLs and start our parser or load URLs into our parser? And this is where this line comes in, login admin. So what we're telling App Engine is only admins can access these URLs here that start off with /_parser / anything else, okay? So admins are all of the people that are assigned as an admin to our current project. So we assign admins in the console, okay? So I'm here in my YumSearch2 project in our console, okay? So console.developers.google.com /project / and then your project ID. Now if we go into permissions, well, here we see that I'm the only owner of this, but I could add a member and say Michael at whatever. Okay, this is a fake email, and I could say whether this person is the owner or whether this person can edit or only view this application. So this tells App Engine whether they are an admin or not, and it will only give access to this URL to people who are logged in with their email, and that email is listed under the account and has the permission of actually changing the application. We'll see this in more detail, okay?